Hi, welcome to the Law Simplified. I'm Shraveen Bandardanayaka. More often than not, it's not the most complicated things that make our answers better, but the most simple ones. Here are 3 simple ways to make your law examination answers better. Number 1. Underline authoritative case law. Very often, when I mark or provide feedback reports to my fast track and masterclass students, something I notice is the failure to underline case law. Now, granted, it might not be a must, and just because you don't do so, it might not be a demerit to your answers either. But considering presentation and the way that examiners look at answer scripts as well, specifically in relation to problem-based scenarios, it's quite easy to tap into how many cases as well as how substantive that case law is and related to the material if you underline it. Now, this is a fundamental step towards better presenting your response to your examiner, so keep in mind to always underline authoritative case law. Now, note, however, that don't go overboard with emphasis. In other words, I often see students tend to underline numerous paragraphs, for instance, when they want to highlight or emphasize a point that they're trying to get across. On the one hand, this might be distracting to an examiner when they read your answer scripts, so try to limit it only to precedent case law as well as 1 or maximum 2 points that you want to illustrate and drive home in relation to the examiner. And even when you are doing so, make sure that you enter in parenthesis soon after underlining that paragraph as emphasis added. So that's number 1, underline authoritative case law. Number 2, don't be afraid to use subheadings. More often than not, I read through answer scripts which are nigh on paragraph on paragraph on paragraph. Now, as an examiner, it's easy to go through these answer scripts and understand what exactly the student is going for. But once again, much like point number 1, it's all about the presentation. How you have not just articulated your arguments, but also showcasing to the examiner that you have a structured method of answering questions. Make sure you look at the scenario and determine what type of question it is. For instance, if you are answering a criminal law question, more often than not, it will not just be scenario based, but also based on interactions that the defendant might be having with several victims, be it in homicide or in theft, for instance. In this situation, it's a good idea to perhaps break down your answers into subheadings in relation to the relationships that are built between this defendant and the various parties. This way, not only will you be presenting a nice formulated answer to your examiner, but it will keep you in track as well on what exactly your answer script should be towards the end. Which brings us to our 3rd point. Number 3 is outline and showcase your response. What I mean by this is make sure you read the question thoroughly, and in your 1st and 2nd paragraphs, even in just the 1st paragraph, indicate to the examiner that you have understood this question. Essentially, break down the pivotal or the fundamental elements that this question requires you to answer. On the one hand, in relation to the actual law itself, as well as any specific points related to that individual question. So once again, for instance, if it is a question on contract law, let's say, on agreement, offer and acceptance, make sure you indicate to the examiner that you have noticed that this is a question focusing on offer and acceptance or agreement. Once you do so, read through the question to determine any specific requirements that the question requires you to tackle. Some questions, for instance, will hinge on whether a particular type of statement was a request for information, an offer, or even an invitation to treat. Conversely, it might be in relation to acceptance, whether the postal rule applies, and so on. Whatever the question might be, chances are that there are 1 or 2 specific aspects of the law that the examiner has wanted you to identify. So showcase to him or her that you have understood what the question is about, as well as the fundamental aspect or the fundamental point that you require discussion for. Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos of this caliber, make sure you subscribe to The Law Simplified. Do visit the brand new website, thelawsimplified.com, for much more rich content, including courses, articles, as well as methods of getting in touch with me for the Fast Track and Masterclass courses. But until the next time that we meet, have fun, stay safe, and obey the law.